Ron Workman, who's the president of Currumbin RSL, he and my husband served together. Apparently when they were in Vietnam, Gray and Ron together, they started the first life-saving club in Vietnam. My husband served in Vietnam. My eldest son served in Timor in the very beginning when Timor happened, and my younger son served in the Middle East. So my family's very much a military family. I'm a war widow. My husband passed away to things, Agent Orange, I suppose you'd say. And that completely changed my life, and I was living in Perth, and I thought, I have no family here because we'd gone there, we only lived there for 12 years for my husband's job, so I thought, what do I do? So I thought, well, the boys, or one of my sons was here, I'll move here, and eventually my youngest son, who was then in the RAF, would move here as well, which is what's happened. And I knew Ron and Marge Workman, and I knew I had to do something, so yeah, I started work over at the support centre, which was, I just absolutely loved that. I love interacting with the war widows and the veterans. You have to get to know one another all over again. It's scary. It's you're nervous. I can remember that very clearly. You're very nervous. And sadly it caused a bit of an argument in the family because like I said, my brother came with me, and of course Steve, and we were at his parents' place, and they didn't live far from Mascot Airport, and we went back there, and Gray bought back a bottle of Old Crow bourbon or something like that. And so his dad and my brother and he were going to have a bourbon, and his mother says, "No drinking in my house." And Gray says, "Your son's just come back from war and you won't even let us have a drink." Well, she wouldn't, and they ended up having an argument, and they didn't speak for 3 months. How silly is that?
It's quite silly, yeah. She probably went to a grave. Is she
Yes,
learned?
yes,
Probably
because my husband lived,
resenting that.
he only lived to 67 and she lived to 98.
Wow.
He was a changed man when he came back. And I didn't know what PTSD was until I worked over the road. And then when you think through your mind, you think, well, yeah, how can a man go to war, see the things they see? He was shot down off the wing of an aircraft, and still be that same person that went away.
I mean, it's not like you've been on holidays and you can come back and talk about your fantastic time.
Vietnam vets didn't talk about anything. They didn't talk about anything, and they had to work so hard to raise the money for the memorial in Canberra, and they didn't even have a welcome home march until 1986.
Somebody took up the fight for that, and
yeah. Well, in those days we had Bruce Ruxton and Sir Colin Hines, and the RSL was a voice in those days. We all worked hard raising money for that, really, really hard raising money for that. But they invited the wives to march on that day too with the men, and I can clearly remember this as well, lots and lots and lots of people, and the choppers coming over, and when the guys hear the whoop 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 of the chopper, some of them will even go to ground.
Really?
Oh yes, it brings back so many memories for a lot of veterans. Oh yeah.
Amazing. If Graham could walk through the door tomorrow from Vietnam, or off a plane tomorrow from Vietnam, if you could go back then, knowing what you know now.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Is it a talk fest that needs to happen? Is it, and you may not have an answer, I don't know. It came to me. Is there any, as an observer?
Do I want to hear the angst and the heartache that they went through? I don't think so. But for all the bad times, they did have some good times too. But and you got to remember, in the Vietnam War, it's a bit like now. A little child would come running up to you, and you couldn't pat him and say, "Hello, little boy," because that kid probably had a bomb on him. So I don't know whether people knew that went on there too. You're very, very careful When you went to town, yeah, you wore, got photos of Gray with a gun on his hip and that. They were very careful when they went to town because you didn't know who was who.
Yep.
You just couldn't, you
Couldn't trust. Couldn't trust.
No.
You'd be safe.
No, but as to whether I'd want, I don't think so. And I don't think I want to hear Tim's either. On one hand you do, because you want to know why they're so hurt and broken. But on the other hand, I don't really want to know the graphics of what happened. I just want him to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can tell you my first Remembrance Day here, my husband had only been gone about 7 months, and Marge took me up to do the cross, and we came upstairs afterwards and I had 2 wines and they just went right to my head, and I spilt red wine all in front of where Ron sits. I've never forgotten that because it was so embarrassing when I look back on it. And I guess it was just emotion, raw emotion that made me like that. But yeah.
So now that you know them and you actually observe the days,
I think it's so special. And I'll tell you something that he did achieve, which I'm so proud of. The Vietnam nurses, service nurses, particularly the RAF. I don't know about others, I only know about the RAF. Legacy, and the government didn't want to recognise them. And he fought and fought and fought. And when he died, I wished it was recorded actually, his funeral. When he died, one of the nurses flew to Perth and did a eulogy because they were so grateful to Gray because now they're TPIs.
Right. Oh, wow.
So I'm just so proud of Gray for that. I know, I think I have had a blessed life. I mean, there's some bad stuff in there, but nobody has a perfect road, do they? And you've got to have bad stuff to appreciate good stuff.
And grow. You can grow from it.
I mean, when I moved here, I never expected to do what I ended up doing and loving it, really loving it.
I think it's because you help people.
I think it is. And, like when I do a bus trip, for me, that's the most ultimate thing to do, because you do the bus trip and everybody has a lovely day and you come back and they're all so happy, and you go to home that night and you think, I made people happy today.
Well put.
And I really like that. And I love my war widows too.